Hey there again, Clashers, it's Galadon with Clash of Clans Attacks, and we're watching episode 61. And today, in the third of the Fail to Win series, we're going to talk about spells. But today we'll take it beyond the anti-environmentalists who like to lightning forests, and we'll talk in a little more depth about all of the spells in Clash of Clans. And since we're already on the subject, let's start with lightning spells. And the first tip for lightning spells I like to call, gotta zap them all. And with that I mean make sure that you're aware of how many troops have come out of the clan castle during an attack. Not all of them will always come out during a lure, as you see here. Now, had this attacker looked a little more closely, they would have seen that only about 9 archers came out of the clan castle, which leaves an awful lot of troops still inside there. And as we speed up this attack to when the rest of the clan castle troops come out, you'll see the remaining were at least 2 witches. And that spelled disaster for the queen and this attack. Okay, moving right along, we look at another attack replay here and take a close look at the clan castle there to the right. Look what comes out of it, a big old golem. And that takes us to our next tip. Don't zap the unzappable. Don't zap golems, don't zap dragons, don't zap large buildings thinking that you're going to get some percentage points out of it for taking that building out. I mean, it's quite a big mess in there, but there it is. Here comes the lightning spell dropping on, what, a mini golem that's already going down. Completely wasted. Much better to save your lightning spell should you need it in an emergency. And that leads us to our next tip, which is one shot, one kill. You never know when that lightning spell might come in handy when you're at 49% overall damage and all of your troops are down. Just remember that builders' huts and the king and the queen's pad are all 1% damage each. Yes, lightning can be very effective when used unconventionally. But in the conventional application of lightning, just make sure you get those clan castle troops bunched up all nice and tight so you can get yourself an ultra kill. Yes, those wizards can be pesky, but they are also very fragile. Alright, so let's move on to the next section, my personal favorite, the rage spell. And right away, our first tip to avoid fail, don't stack rage spells. Now, I know I've spoken about this before, the fact that the King's Rage does not stack with normal Rage, which is true, but also it's important to remember that the Rage spell lasts about 18 seconds. And as you can see here when we freeze the frame, there's that second Rage spell coming in only about 8 or 10 seconds after the first one, right on top of each other. Definitely could have been timed better and placed better. Alright, on to our next raging tip. And that would be, rage where they're going, not where they've been. Always try to anticipate where your units are going and try to get that rage spell in there to help destroy as many buildings as possible. And the second half of this tip, it's important to know where your units are going, because otherwise you might find yourself raging an area where they're not going to be. Remember, rage does not attract units, buildings and defensive units attract units. Another good thing to remember is don't tap right on your unit to place the rage spell. Rather, look where the unit's going, try to get more than one unit under it, and as you can see here, this rage spell just lands in the absolute most perfect spot. Notice all the units using the rage spell there, the queen, those witches, there's a wizard there, and eventually even the king gets in on the action. Alright, so let's move on to my least favorite spell, the jump spell. And the first tip, you say jump, they say, eh. And I say that because, again, the jump spell also does not attract units. They're not going to use it just because it's there. They're going to be going for the closest structures and the clan castle troops, as you can see here. And here, it's a completely wasted jump spell. So, let's move on to a more effective use and placement of a jump spell in this attack here. Now we can see this attacker has focused all of his units right in on the middle of this enclosure here, going past that cannon. He's going to work his way through. The clan castle troops are going to help draw things in. And now as the golems and all those wizards work their way inside, take a look at where he drops this jump spell here. And take a look at where that air defense is. from that air defense, which is what the golems are banging on right now, the next closest defensive structure is going to be either the X-bow or the Inferno Tower, so those golems naturally use the jump spell and are into the next enclosure. The wizards and those P.E.K.K.A. as well use it, move in, and next thing you know, that town hall is going to be down. Alright, let's take a quick look at the heal spell. And these days, pretty much the only application where we're seeing the heal spell being used is, you guessed it, Hog Rider attacks. And with that many units running around that need healing, it's important to remember to heal those units where it counts. Heal them when they're taking a lot of damage, and heal them when they're grouped together for the most effective use of that healing spell as well. Now right here, this could have been an example of a heal fail, as the Hog Riders are not going to get healed while being damaged by that multi-targeting Inferno. But this obviously experienced Hog Rider attacker used his freeze spell in just the right spot, healed up his units, and they were able to go on and claim victory. That's right, a Segway is more than just a funny looking two-wheeled thing that tourists ride on. Let's talk about freeze spells. Now first, I'd like to take a few seconds to cover the use of freeze spells specifically with single targeting Infernos. And that is, when freezing these, timing is the key. Now here we see a freeze frame of an Inferno Tower that has just targeted this P.E.K.K.A. And the P.E.K.K.A. is probably like, oh, where's Peter when I need a good female voice?
Can I come out now?
No, you're good in the bathroom, Peter. But what I'm trying to say is the P.E.K.K.A. probably thinks that this ray is just tickling her, not really bothering her. Now the second stage, the beam gets thicker, now it's starting to do a little bit of damage. The P.E.K.K.A. is probably like, okay, what the heck is that? Now this is definitely when you want to have already frozen the Inferno. That is going to burn the heck out of that P.E.K.K.A. in just a couple of seconds. She's going to be down. So you can use that information in a couple of ways. If the Inferno is already on its thickest setting, dropping a freeze spell, it's going to be too late. And when it's on that first thinnest beam setting, it's doing almost no damage to larger units like heroes and P.E.K.K.A.s, so you can probably wait a couple seconds to drop the freeze. So that's a little bit on freeze spell timing. Now let's talk about freeze spell placement. It's important to remember that you can freeze multiple structures with one freeze spell. Just like with the rage spell, you need to account for that entire radius of the spell and use it to your advantage. Here you can see the attacker froze a Tesla, Inferno, and a crossbow, all with one freeze spell. And that's about all the time we have for today. We could definitely go into a lot more detail about spells, but it really comes down to two primary factors that I've said over and over again in a lot of my videos: timing and placement. Do those things correctly, you can turn the tide to your advantage. Thank you as always for watching, subscribing, liking, and I appreciate all of the comments. Please feel free to leave suggestions for improvements and other tips on spells. I'd be happy to discuss it with you. Take a look at clashguide.com as we go into depth on these subjects as well. And watch out tomorrow for another episode of Clash of Clans Attacks.
Galadon, I'm sorry, I won't do it again.